Hello, this is a pick a pile reading to find out what is your creative superpower. It is my very first pick a pile reading, and the audio is probably not great, but I think that the readings have some interesting messages. So if you're creative, you want to pull up a chair and listen to some weird girl you never heard before ramble, here's your reading. So you want to pick a pile, and we have pile 1, Vesuvianite. Pile 2, Vanadinite. Or pile 3, Ruby in Kyanite. So, pick a pile, and we'll see you at that pile. Hi, pile 1. You chose Vesuvianite, and your creative superpower is the rabbit. So, the rabbit is a symbol of fertility, and it's also a symbol of rebirth, resurrection, vitality. In this deck, it is symbolic of making leaps, waiting, and adventure. It is also a symbol of wit, cleverness, vigilance, and self-protection. And the rabbit's associated with the moon. Vesuvianite comes from Mount Vesuvius, the volcano in Italy. It is very unpredictable and very explosive. It's a fiery force of nature that changes everything around it merely by existing. Creates new things in the landscape that would not otherwise be there without its presence, such as, oops, sorry about that, such as this crystal. Okay, so, to me, the combination of the two unpredictability and fertility. Your creative superpower feels like it involves discovering that hotbed of ideas that is hidden. The moon is associated with secrets, and the lava in a volcano, until it spews forth, is also hidden, dormant. So, in the center of that, at the bottom of that, in the shadow, there can be a lot of really powerful ideas that can change the people who experience your expression of them, can make a permanent change in the cultural landscape. So, a sense of adventure and being willing to leap when the time is right, without hesitation, into that inspiration is, I think, also something indicated by this rabbit. The idea of vitality, of rebirth, of resurrection, of sort of embracing every new day as it comes, fresh, tabula rasa. So, yeah, your superpower actually, I think, is having a wealth of undiscovered fiery treasure. How can you open up to new ideas? Okay, so we have the peacock in the house. I'm going to scoot the Vesuvianite over here a little bit and also get something to drink. Sorry about that. So the peacock is, as a spirit animal, it symbolizes a lot of things that all sort of tie into a sense of self and identity, I think. There's self-confidence, self-esteem, dignity, knowledge, sense of refinement, your sexuality, pride, obviously beauty. And in this deck, it represents splendor, the divine, and craving. Now the house represents stability, stagnation, and family. So I think that the combination of the two speaks to sort of maintaining a balance between the grounding and the sense of community that you need to feel tethered, right, and feel supported, while allowing, or not just allowing, but rolling out the fucking red carpet, pardon my language, for your sense of self, your identity, your, the core of who you are. You know, when you strip away all the labels that other people could put on you, you know, but like what you really feel in your gut, what you feel in your heart, you know, and what makes you excited and makes you sit up straight, makes you want to seize the day, you know. Being able to find not only, you know, actually with the Vesuvianite, the fact that the Vesuvianite is grounded with earth, right, but it's about adaptation and change, and it comes from a very explosive source, right, the volcanic lava. It's kind of like that in itself is a symbol of being able to maintain that core equilibrium, you know, that little bubble in the level, you know, that carpenters use, right? It, like being able to maintain your core so your little bubble is in the right place, despite the stuff that's going on outside of you. And the peacock and the house together makes me feel like it's almost the same message in a way, because you want to have a sense of stability, a sense of family, but you don't want to have a stagnation. You cannot create in a vacuum, okay? And so the peacock speaks to being able to maintain, like before, that little bubble, that core self-reliance of your worldview comes from you. You do not need to check with anybody else to see if something is okay or not. You can trust your own gut. You can trust your own counsel. You're secure in that. Despite everything that goes on outside of you, if you have that, it goes so far beyond any other resource you could have. Because you can carry that with you anywhere, and no one can take it away from you. And in the deck, the fact that it mixes those ideas with splendor, the divine, and craving is really lovely, because then you add in that important sense of wonder that you need to be able to connect to that inspiration, to connect to that overflowing well of ideas that is in your energetic field, or like Abraham Hicks would call it, your vortex, right? Because I think you have a creative vortex too. You know, you might have a vortex where you're like manifesting like material, physical stuff or whatever, but I like to think that you have like a creative vortex that's kind of like a percolator. There's no fish in it like Twin Peaks, but still. Okay, so you have this little percolator, and you've got all these little scraps of things that sit in there and sort of simmer until they're done cooking, you know? And sometimes you don't know what's in there. And being in touch with the things that sort of take your breath away, or that make you say, wow, I just can't even believe that that's actual, that this is an experience, or a thing, or a person, or an idea that I am able to engage with. You know, that sense of knowing, hey, this is something greater. That craving for that transcendence is an excellent impetus to go forth into ideas that maybe you wouldn't look at otherwise. I feel like, anyway, you know, wanting to embrace the splendor, the grandeur, be part of it, have a hand in creating some of it. Not a bad thing to strive for. And with all the ideas that you have just ready for you to dive into, it's not going to be a difficult endeavor for you. You're going to be able to flourish. It's giving yourself that room, you know, taking down some of the parameters, so you have room to sort of, you know, roam, run around, check things out, hop like a bunny. What's under the bush? What's over here near the hedge? Why the hell did that person just throw a plastic Easter egg at me? I mean, you know, I don't know. But yeah, so, yeah, you know, having that bubble of stability within yourself, and not being afraid to go for it. Just dream as big as you possibly can, and then go towards that dream. And I don't think you're going to have any problem opening up to new ideas. So, next we have, how do you spark more passion creatively? Okay, so the first card we have is Mirabai, and her keyword is devotion. The second is Wildflowers card, and the third is Maria Sabina, and her keyword is healing. And I think it's interesting here that both Mirabai and Maria, they have hands highlighted here in some way. So, in the way that these go up, it's like they are reaching towards the divine. The fact that they're disembodied almost suggests like this is a vessel of something. It's these hands are an entity that is separate from Maria, because they're sort of communal. She uses them, but then also that healing energy comes through them, like Reiki. So she's got hummingbirds around her which they're a symbol of good luck and also messages from spirit and divine connection. I feel like the wolf and this other animal, I cannot tell if it's like a feline type of animal or if it's more like a meerkat or a ferret or something, because it's really hard to tell. It's sort of panther-esque. I don't know if you can see it properly, but it's sort of panther-esque a little bit, but then not. I don't know. The neck was kind of weirdly skinny. There's wildflowers in vines around her, and there are wildflowers here. Wildflowers are significant as far as romance and renewal and awakening. Over here with Mirabai, she's playing the instrument, and she's got the divine hands around her. Her story is that she wrote devotional poetry to Krishna. It says here, her keywords are worship, passion, and the sublime. Instead of attending to her royal and wifely duties, Princess Mirabai wrote intense, erotic, devotional poetry to the god Krishna, whom she thought of as her lover. Mirabai's in-laws loved her unconventional ways, and she miraculously escaped their poisoning attempts twice. Wow. Okay. That's why they have those, like, mother-in-law songs, I guess, Mirabai. When the in-laws tried to bring her back into the family, Mirabai spent the night at a Krishna temple and disappeared. Okay, so they poisoned her twice, but then they tried to bring her back into the family, but they wanted to poison her a third time. Maybe third time's the charm, I don't know. Legend has it that she merged with Krishna's image that night, so she disappeared at the Krishna temple, or continued on her spiritual pilgrimage in disguise. That sort of reminds me of the song Closer by 9 Inch Nails, in a way. And I say that because of the intense erotic nature of the devotional poetry. Suggests sacred sensuality. And the way that you can be, to quote the song, brought closer to God by an intense connection. The fact that the hands are featured here and the hands are featured over with Maria, and Maria is healing, kind of also makes me think of sexual healing. And what was the question again? How can you spark more passion in your creative life? Okay, well, let's see what it says about Maria. Maria is all about what ails you, seeking help, and helping others. I feel like sexual healing is helping others. Okay. Maria Sabina, who could not read or write and lived in poverty in the mountains of southern Mexico, is considered the greatest shaman poet or wise one of the Mazatec language. She improvised her chants during psilocybin mushroom ceremonies performed to heal the sick. Her rich spiritual vision was informed by native Mazatec beliefs as well as the Catholic faith. I don't know if it's just because Sappho is like below her listing here and, or what, but now I'm still stuck on the sexual healing thing. Because romance and renewal, passion, and, maybe it's not sex with someone else. Maybe it's sex with yourself. Maybe it's sex with life. And I don't mean that in a weird way. Like, don't go hump a telephone pole or anything. I mean, like, feeling that passion, balancing your sacral chakra, because that's where creativity comes from, right? One of the places, okay. I'm sure people are going to debate everything, as they always do, but that is the chakra base of creativity, is the sacral chakra. And when your sacral chakra is imbalanced, when it is blocked, then you can't create. Oh, I have to snooze an alarm. Isn't that a pain? Okay, just a second. Sorry, everybody. Okay, I think these technical difficulties might be Archangel Michael telling me to get a move on off this topic, but I'm just trying to say that if your sacral chakra is blocked, if it's imbalanced, then it's going to be difficult to come up with creative ideas. It's going to be difficult to feel that inspiration, that motivation. And so while sex or sexual healing may not necessarily be the answer, or it may, your mileage will vary, getting that chakra in balance, I mean all of your chakras in general, but getting that one in particular balanced and healing any wounds that you have to it, which you can do through things like energy healing. You can also do like meditations and stuff. But if you have any sort of past wounding or trauma which involves your sexuality, then it is very important to seek to resolve that in some way where you are able to heal it, because it blocks so much of the force of your character and the force of you being able to feel like you can stand in your power. Just that there's this whole arena of empowerment that is cordoned off from you with a freaking velvet rope if you have that wounding. And no one deserves to be wounded in that way. Everyone deserves healing. And obviously it helps everything in your life across the board. But it's especially important when it comes to creativity, because not only does so much of creativity rest in that sort of energetic area, but creativity is what frees you and helps heal you as well. So it's kind of like if you can get enough healing to where you can begin to create, then it'll sort of be like its own perpetual motion machine. Or, you know, like, I don't know, wheelhouse, one of those things, like, yeah, revolving door, something. It's simpatico sort of system, whatever. But it'll sort of feed itself, because the creativity will give you a means to express and release a lot of the things that stay pent up, that, harkening back to the rabbit in the moon, are hidden, are part of the shadow, something that we tend to try and, I guess in popular society, whatever the hell that is, try and shy away from. Nobody wants to be like too unusual in mainstream society, and there's a whole punishment culture where, I don't know, it seems like there is often a perspective where an environment fostered where we all kind of feel like, oh fuck, I'm gonna get in trouble for something. You're not doing anything, but still you feel like, man, I'm gonna get in trouble for something. We judge each other a lot. And this judgment can make an environment internally where you really don't want to say anything to anybody. Because the minute you do, it's just, you know, off with your head, right? That's how it feels. But that doesn't have to be the case. I don't feel that it does. I feel like it's a matter of having the safe area to work things out and to refuse to stay in those areas where judgment and punishment and all those sort of bad vibe things proliferate, because that's the enemy of creativity. You have to be able to be free and be like a child and experiment. And let's see what happens. Happy accidents. You can't plan things out too much, because then you're going to miss something. Something amazing and serendipitous that could happen that you have no conception of, that you would never dream of in a million years. Just could come out of the blue and be perfect. And you need to have that playfulness. And if you always feel like somebody's going to judge you, or if you feel ashamed, or if you feel wounded, all of those things keep that playfulness, you know, away from you. And the hell with that. You need that playfulness. You deserve it. So, yeah. Now I'm tempted to like make another sexual healing joke, but that would be like really bad. But didn't I just sort of already do the really bad thing by mentioning that I wanted to do that? I think maybe I did. I'm sorry. But, okay. Just because it's a motif, I don't mean anything like particularly, I don't mean it like, oh, it sounds so terrible now. You know what, though? Let's leave it. Cancel a nobody, please. Go ahead. Okay. Because I meant no offense by it. And I send much love to anybody who has wounding like that, because I understand. I do. Promise you. Okay. So now, how can you be creative in everything you do? We have the praying mantis. Dun, dun, dun. Supposedly those are good luck if you find one in your house. I would freak out just because it's just, I don't know, something about the more, I guess, mantis-y insects is just not up my alley. But the mantis is symbolic of wit and fun, and also manipulation. Which, okay, that part makes sense to me, because the praying mantis does bite the head of her mate off. Or I guess, let me say that properly, bite off the head of her mate. So that would take a little manipulation to pull that off, I think. I'm not interested in pursuing what type, but I think that there's a positive way to look at it too, when you consider that the traditional, I guess, spiritual meaning of this insect is stillness, meditation, spirituality, angels watching over you. And so combining that with wit, manipulation, and fun, it's okay to relax, because you're more protected than you know. And doing that mindset will change your energy, which will in turn start to change your reality. And that is where the manipulation comes in. Because you are manipulating your reality. You're manipulating your set point. You're saying, I deserve to idle at a comfortable speed. And the wit and the fun part, well, we're coming back to that playfulness that you so need. So, to sort of embrace that creativity, that spirit of creativity in your daily life. You don't have to let anybody bite your head off. It's okay to relax. And, you know, like they say, fuck them if they can't take a joke, right? If they don't like it, whoever they is, the ubiquitous they. Because I get the feeling that I mean, from these cards with healing, with the shadow being a wellspring of ideas, with the playfulness and the connection to the divine and that sense of wonder being highlighted, as well as holding on to that sense of self. You know, it seems that there's some rough stuff possibly there. And if that's the case, I just want to tell you, you are never alone, okay? So, sorry for getting choked up, but I just send you all the love in the world. Things are going to be okay. Alright, that is for somebody. I'm not sure who, but probably a few somebodies. Okay, let's see what Sonia Choquette has to say. Okay, so your trust your vibes are. Make a note of it. And pray. What this one means to me. With the angel here. Reaching up to the divine. Here's the sun. And the open heart. It looks like a sort of a heart box or something. And you got some fruit, some abundance before this person who's very grateful. Giving thanks, and then that's thanks in another way. I think the joy, I think, is also a form of gratitude. But what this tells me, and look, we have the angelic figure over here. What this tells me, what Michael tells me, Archangel Michael, is that you are protected. You have beings of light looking out for you. And they want you to make a note of that. And they also want you to start writing a list. Write down your ideas. You will not necessarily remember them. We always think we will, and then sometimes they just sort of poof away. So that is a special little thing there. Okay, now here's these little cards. Okay. So what do we have? I don't really know how to characterize these. So I'm just going to tell you what they are, okay? Microbiome. Okay, so what Spirit is saying here is your gut microbiota is important. Is that the message that you expected to get in this reading? Probably not. Okay. But it is. Because it really can affect your mood. I'm one to talk here because I'm like terrible with diet drinks, but artificial sweeteners kill your gut buddies, for lack of a better term. Your healthy bacteria, okay? Your microbiome in your stomach. Artificial sweeteners mess with that. That in turn will mess with your mood big time. And an excellent way to sort of manage that, besides, you know, like I guess the acidophilus, a drinkable yogurt or whatever, would be like fiber gummies. They're sweetened with monk fruit, and I think it's inulin. I don't know. There's something in them that your little gut buddies really like. So that'll also help. But, you know, obviously a healthy diet, and you know, and try not to, I guess, indulge too much in artificial sweeteners, and definitely stay away from corn syrup. But I'm not a doctor. Okay, turn it upside down. What this is, there's a book called Drawing from the Right Brain. And in that, the author tells you that if you're having difficulty drawing something, like when we go to draw an eye, for instance, everybody does like the, okay, do, and then a circle, and then another circle, and eyelashes, and that's an eye. Nobody's eye looks like that, right? But then how do you draw an eye? The way you can do it is you can take the photo reference and turn the picture upside down. So it's a lot easier to draw this. It's not an eye, obviously, but okay, if it were an eye. By following the light and the shadow, because now it's not something that your brain looks at and says, oh yes, it's an eye, it's a rabbit, it's this, it's that. It could be any number of things. I'm not going to speak of this area up here, but you know, but I mean, basically the point is that your brain can't label it anymore because it's upside down. So you can do that literally, of course, if you're drawing something. But this is more just saying, like, try and flip your perspective. You know, hang upside down off of the couch. Look at the room, and doesn't it look neat if the ceiling was the floor? Doesn't it look like so much like cleaner and like cooler and like a more exciting world? So if you can take that sort of, I don't know, they used to, I don't know if they call it a Turnbull. It's one of those things like when Joseph Gordon-Levitt was on Saturday Night Live and he did like the Donald O'Connor thing where you're in the room and you're walking up the walls. It's actually the room turning, right? So if you could just like put what you're trying to look at or what's perplexing or troubling in one of those things, in one of those Turnbull things, and like turn it and just get a different, I guess I could just like get a different perspective, look at it from a different angle. Oh wow, how about that? Okay, yeah, sorry. Flip it and reverse it. Missy Elliott, yes. Okay, kind of the same concept, but this is more with interacting with people. Try and see it completely from somebody else's point of view or perspective, and see if that helps inform a situation in any way, whether it's creatively or it's relationally. You may find it helpful, you may not, but it's always going to give you more information to work with to try and flip a situation as completely to the other side or other sides as you can and reverse it. And then what does it look like? If the situation was flipped and reversed, what would your feelings be about it then? What would your thoughts be about it then? It's just a area of investigation. It's not saying, oh, this or that about, there's no judgment values on this. It's not saying, oh, well, you don't do this and you should. It's a suggestion. It's a serving suggestion. And then the little card is integration. And what this card is about is your left brain and your right brain, your logical brain and your creative emotional brain, your swords and your cups, so to speak. When they are not integrated, when you have not been able to process something, that is when you're going to find the difficulty in finding the balance between mind and heart, which is kind of, to me, and this is my opinion, sort of like the left brain, right brain. You know, I feel like the right brain definitely connects more with the heart. And the left brain is, to me, this is really, that's that logic and that sense of being linear and analytical is, that's what, I mean, that, there you go, mind, right? So, I hope you didn't hear that as my roommate. It's important to have those two match up, because when they don't, it's going to cause difficulty in both areas, both in the emotional area and the logical area, I guess the data informational area, because the imbalance of emotion is going to improperly color the data, and the imbalance of data is not going to take into consideration apples and oranges factors that are part of the emotional realm and the logical realm interacting with one another, if that makes any sense. The idea of integration that I'm kind of thinking of, there's a book that I am reading called The Whole Brain Child, and it is about helping children process and translate their lives so that they have that compatibility and that communication between those two hemispheres. And there's a really cool story where a little child had been with a caregiver, and the caregiver had a seizure and crashed the car. And the child was okay, but I think the child was like 2 years old, you know, obviously very freaked out by it. And talking to the mother about it and saying, the caregiver's name was Mia, saying, Mia, woo, and woo was the ambulance. And so this was the way the child was communicating, you know, holy crap, man, Mia had a seizure and they took her away in an ambulance. What the, you know, whoa, you know, it was Mia, woo woo. And so instead of the mother doing what might be a more antiquated, traditional response of, yes, it's okay, well, it's all over now, watch TV or, you know, whatever, let's distract you from this, don't worry about it. Instead, the mother said, yes, Mia had a seizure and the ambulance took her away. And then the child sort of like imitated the seizure and said, yeah, you know, Mia, woo woo, you know, and shaking, you know, further communicating and expressing in the only way that the child was able to, you know, more emotion, more information. Just like, I mean, if you were able to speak fully and articulate that, you'd be telling your friend, oh my God, man, you know, we were driving and we were riding along and all of a sudden she just starts shaking and I don't know what's going on and she's slumping over and, you know, whatever happened, right? And it's the same thing that a young child would need to do, but so often in the past, young children are told to be quiet or they are distracted, or they are given some sort of cue that no, that you don't express this. This is not this is not appropriate. And kids need to be able to process things so that your two hemispheres can be integrated. And so the way that the mother was going through the incident with the child, she was repeating back to him the things that he was communicating to her, and helping him sort of like deal with it, you know, and just kind of like grounding it in reality. Yes, this did happen. Here we are, you know, we are discussing this thing that happened, which conveys we are greater than this thing that happened. This thing happened, but it does not define anything beyond the thing itself. So, okay, well, yeah. That's pile 1. And I probably said a lot of goofy stuff, and this is super long. But, like I said, training wheels. Okay. Thank you so much. And I hope that you got something out of this. I hope that it resonated. And sorry I got all sappy. And on to pile 2. Hello, pile 2. You chose Vanadinite. Just gonna lift up for you. You're probably a writer. Vanadinite is the writer's crystal. And its keyword is creativity. It stimulates the intellect and is associated with the element of earth, the root chakra, and the astrological sign of Virgo. Your creative superpower is a skull. And in this deck, the skull symbolizes transitions, reality, and grief. Doesn't really sound much like a superpower, right? But I think what this is saying, in combination with the Vanadinite, is that there's information that is hard won through transitions, through, I guess what you would call smacks of reality, right? Through grief. Lessons that are not accessible to everybody, because all 3 of these things, like, you know, transitions, like your assessment of reality, your experience of grief, they're subjective. And so because they're subjective, everyone is going to get something different from them because they're subjective experiences. And then you have the formula of the person having the experience. And so those, like, it's just endless combinations, right? Pardon me. And after you've gone through a transition, after you've had some sort of a, we'll say, a reality adjustment, right? After you've experienced deep grief, there's a point where you're actually moving from the emotional experience of it into the reflected experience of it, where you're able to get some distance from the harsher aspects, the pain. And that information, that time of reflection, is where you're going to find a gold mine, not materially, but creatively. I don't know how really to... Hey, Michael, help me out, please. The way you go through transitions, the way you go through grief, the way you experience shifts in your reality that you may not have anticipated or desired or expected. Well, I guess that's the same as anticipated. The way that you move through these things is unique to you. And the way that you will assess these things and view them in reflection is unique to you. And because of the capacity of intellect and the ability to have so many different ideas and variations on the same ideas, if that makes sense, where you have all these different ideas, and then each one of those ideas has multiple facets of different ways that you could convey or express, or flourishes, nuances that would add this or that message or information or expression. Because you have this capacity to hold so many different parts of an experience, even though it's difficult. It is invaluable to other people and will expand their own ability to see more facets of a particular thing, instead of seeing just like a binary view, or I don't know, is trinary a word? Trinary view. To be able to see 12, 15 different angles instead of just one or two or three, because you walked in those shoes and you were the pioneer, the discoverer of those angles, those nooks and crannies of that experience, that information that comes from those nooks and crannies that adds so much to understanding of any given situation. So, I guess that's a long way of saying that as an observer, you're a lens that reflects what you observe. And as an observer, such as yourself, a unique observer who has, metaphorically, big eyes to see many, many details and aspects of any given situation, thing, entity. Your lens is that much bigger to reflect that much more information about these things to other people, to open up their consciousness to uncharted territory. So, your creative superpower is taking the hit for other people, I guess, in a way. You're making a new template. You're making a new template of understanding. And you're expressing that creatively. And if you're not expressing that now, you will be. You can be. You have the full capacity. You have beyond the full capacity to do so. Okay, so thank you, Michael. See, Archangel Michael, man, he's the guy. I tell you. Okay, here we go. The second card. Oh my God. Okay, don't make me fun of you, please. Come on. Okay. How can you open yourself to a never-ending flow of ideas? So, we have Audre Lorde here, and her keyword is justice. And there is Emily Dickinson, and her keyword is the soul. I guess that's 2 words, right? But anyway. Okay. Sorry, I had to take a drink. Audre Lorde's key phrases are fighting for yourself, your values, and your community. She was a Black lesbian feminist who spoke out about racism, about sexism, about homophobia. And she wrote about topics like sisters, mothers, cancer, anger, the erotic, unicorns, witches, snails eating snakes, and fire. So she looks like she is standing kind of like in a swamp right here. With, you know, we would assume, you know, she knows where the bodies are buried. Okay? Justice always does, doesn't it? And these kind of look like they could be, you know, warding off the evil eye. Or it could be something in the recesses looking back. That could be the abyss looking back, you know, that whole Nietzsche thing about when you stare into the abyss stares back into you, or something like that. I really get this sort of I am the Lorax, I speak for the trees vibe, because she's holding this little guy that looks like a baby Groot, if Edward Munch drew Groot. And she's got like this, almost a katana. She's just going to lop somebody's head off, or maybe clear her way through, you know, some overgrowth, or like some of the dead branches or something. But the feeling I get from the card in combination with information about her is that not only did she bring out and expose things that were in the recesses, that were in the dark, in the abyss, racism, sexism, homophobia, subjects that people didn't want to look at, cancer, anger, sex, sisters and mothers. I mean, there's a lot to say there, but do I really need to? No. I mean, you know, the whole female oppression thing. Yes. Okay. Unicorns and witches, things that people don't believe could happen, like a snail eating a snake. And things that consume. Fire. Things, overpowering forces. Anger is an overpowering, consuming force. Sex can be an overpowering, consuming force. Can be. Come on. Okay. So, she's fierce as fuck, okay? And she is all about standing up for yourself, standing up for what you think needs to be said, and bringing things out into the light. She's for a clear view. Clear as in no bullshit. This is real. This is not sugar-coated. This is not what you want to believe about something. This is what is actual and what is, which is kind of what you do when you stand up for your rights, you know. My roommate is drilling something right now. Sorry about that. Emily Dickinson represents the soul, spiritual life, the inner world, and the unknown. And when she died, they found so many poems that they had no idea she'd written. She looks like she's holding a ferret. I mean, that's the second time I've said ferret tonight, but I used to have ferrets, so maybe that's yeah, I have a ferret thing. But ferrets are very inquisitive, very persistent. They're very playful, but they can also bite the living hell out of you. They like to run up in corners. And if you hide something from them, they will instinctually seek it out quite quickly, very skillfully. So, ferrets get information, metaphorically. Emily has what looks like fireflies, I don't know if you can see them, around her head. Kind of like a halo. Fireflies are what Esther Hicks described when she asked to see the beings that she was communicating with. Or I guess it is communicating with. I don't, you guys, I don't know how to say that, okay? I have a thing with the whole hierarchy stuff. I have no idea how that works, so, but they get it. They get it, and they're fine with it. Okay. But that's the Estrosol fireflies. And, I mean, you know, orbs, of course. These are representative beings of light, representative of the divine, can be representative of intuition, that spark of inspiration, and that's tied in with the soul. It's not something that comes through the ego in such a deep way. It kind of looks like fire, even though it's like grass, and I suppose that's supposed to be earth because looks like worms under there, fertile soil. So a fiery earth, which is interesting because the Vanadinite, the elements are fire and earth. And so I kind of think, in a way, even though the flames are here with Emily, and Audra's got some earth around here, she's standing in water of some sort. She's definitely fiery and earthy at the same time. And I suppose that, like, you can look at the soul as being fiery in the internal world, because look at how many poems her fiery soul generated, Emily Dickinson's fiery soul generated. Her rich internal world, her inner landscape. So I think part of standing up for yourself and for your values is giving respect and being tenacious and championing, being tenacious about, I guess, having the sense of championing your inner world. And by championing, what an awkward freaking word that is anyway. Ugh. Okay. Let's say by bolstering your inner world, by taking a stand for your inner world, right? By taking a stand for your inner world, for what moves your soul, for what creates that vista within that is a sacred and safe place, that is a Summerland. That is how you can open up to the never-ending flow of ideas. By planting your flag in that rich internal soil and saying, yeah, I'm sovereign and it's beautiful here and I will stand up for this and not be ashamed of it. I will cultivate it and grow it into hundreds and hundreds of aspects that reflect myriad dot. At him, sorry. I was like seeing, like when Homer has the fantasy about Candyland or whatever, I'm seeing that kind of cartoon, like Seussian almost landscape of like lollipop trees and shit, but was not able to convey that to you, unfortunately. But trying to tie it in was like all the aspects that you are able to see, right? They exist within your soul. And then some. And so the never-ending flow of ideas comes from standing up for that inner world and saying that inner world is absolutely valid. And not only that, but it's fucking beautiful, because there is so much more in this inner world than some of your eyes can conceive. And that is why I've got to stand up for it and I've got to express it. Right? I being you. Yeah, okay. Onward and upward. I hope that makes sense. How can you spark more creative passion? We have Anne Carson with the intellect. And that is no surprise, is it? Because, I mean, we're talking major intellectual capacity here. So, sparking more passion. I want to read her little thing out of the Literary Witches Oracle Guide. Should have had this queued up, but you know. I don't even know what that meant. What am I saying that you know? I'm so sorry. Okay. So her key phrases are intellectual growth, delights of the mind, and plagues of the mind. Oh man, that's on point. You know, live by the sword, you die by the sword, I guess, you know. A prolific writer of poems, essays, and various literary hybrids. Works with themes of lost family members, love and lust, religion, and intellectual tradition. The combination of this MacArthur Fellowship's recipient's austerity, startling insights, and relentless questioning is as awe-inspiring and explosive as the volcanoes she has been known to paint. Carson is also a scholar of ancient Greek and Latin texts and a champion of fellow witches, referring to the literary witches of the Oracle, having translated Sappho and written about Emily Bronte and Virginia Woolf. Well, she works with themes of lost family members, love and lust, religion, and intellectual tradition. Plagues of the mind, delights of the mind, which brings me back over to transitions, reality, and grief. Sorry, I'm holding a lighter and my nails are terrible. Because where else are you going to find transitions, reality, and grief of lost family members, love, lust, religion, and intellectual tradition? I would say that's pretty much the transition, reality, grief gumbo. Right there is all that stuff. The interesting thing here is that, well, I mean, besides the whole, okay, now we've got a ferret crossover and a volcano crossover with pile 1. But she's holding the volcano, which to me, when I first saw this card, I thought she was holding a cigarette. You know, the whole intellectual smoking stereotype, cliche, whatever. Okay, pardon me. But it's actually a little volcano. But the smoke forms this cloud over her head. Pardon me. And that reminds me of, you know, depression. It reminds me of grief, the way it hangs over you. And it's interesting she's holding an eye. Because plagues of the mind, it's like when you have a lot of intellect, almost everything, it's a logic problem, right? It's something that even if maybe you don't have an emotional investment in something, if it is puzzling enough, you may be prone to dig and dig and dig. Because it can be sort of like a mental game until it isn't. It's all fun and games until somebody loses an eye. Unfortunately, it's usually the person doing the overthinking. And the thing is, you need 2 eyes for depth perception. So if you metaphorically blind yourself with overthinking, which can be really easy to do, because, I mean, you can even overthink what is the difference between following an intellectual chain or an idea and overthinking, right? You could just take that one concept and overthink the fuck out of it if you are so inclined, if that is your sort of hamster wheelie kind of a brain, which I don't know if you can tell, but I am prone to that sort of thing. And I am having to unlearn overthinking. My mom used to say, you overanalyze everything. And I would say, you can't overanalyze, you just analyze. Which, of course, you know, was overanalyzing it. I digress. Sparking more passion. I think she was so very linear. And I mean, classical Greek and Latin text, it takes a profound capacity to work with those particular languages. At least in my opinion, because it's beyond me. But she painted volcanoes. And painting is not a linear activity. Painting is soothing and relaxing. She painted volcanoes, though, which is, it suggests invigoration. It suggests purging, catharsis. So there was this area where she was not inhabiting the intellectual. She wasn't in the thinky stuff. But she was in the more get your hands dirty, get down in it, you know, get the paint all over you, smell the smell of the oils and the turpentine, and feel the soft sable of the brushes, etc. You know, the tactile experience of it. And that's probably what was her balance and why she was able to be prolific and sustain, you know, a career in writing and in the intellectual life. I mean, I don't know anything more about her than what is in this deck, but that's just my head there. Pardon me. Yeah. I would say, if anything, she could serve, if I'm off about that, she could serve as sort of like a marker, like a little Burma shave sign to be like, okay, she's way over into the left brain. So do remember the cloud over her head. Oops. Okay. And then it all fell apart. All right. Do remember the cloud over her head. And the fact that she's holding an eyeball dripping with blood. Oh, and there is a volcano in her palm at some point. That's going to get hot. So you could look at her as, conversely, a poster girl for overthinking. And in doing so, maybe be inspired to sway a little bit in the other direction, which, you know, will help free up that passion. Because logic and passion, I'm not saying they're incompatible at all. I'm just saying that they're not. I don't know. You wouldn't put them on a plate next to each other, I guess. I don't know how else to say that. They're just not in the same, like one's baseball, one's football, if that makes any sense. Okay. How can you be more creative? We have Toni Morrison. I just want to peek here. It looks like she has crows above her. Crows are very spiritual. Crows are messengers. Crows remember a face. Do not ever mess with a crow. They will mess you back. They will remember you. We should get people with face blindness and crows together. And they, you know, have a team. That is the share. By the way. Okay. And the coughing, if you heard that, was my roommate. He coughs a lot. Okay. She's got a knife there. It's one of those Halloween Michael Myers knives. She's got some spilt milk. She's got some bread. And she's got flowers on either side. They look like they might be poppies. I'm not sure what's coming forth from them. But the spilt milk seems significant with the figure. And I suppose what that is signifying is beloved, which the Oracle deck has a cute little thing about it. It says, don't think of this as your homework reading, even though, you know, it's on all these book lists, is critically acclaimed, you know, it's classic literature. Don't think of it as, you know, homework reading, because it's really about a vengeful baby ghost. Toni Morrison's keyword is power. The key phrases are owning power, seizing power, and power at play. The combination of power with the mention of homework reading, quote unquote, and the fact that Beloved is actually about a vengeful baby ghost, quote unquote, pardon me, which is more like sort of pitch language. Like, what sounds more exciting, homework or vengeful baby ghost? I'm going with vengeful baby ghost 10 times out of 10, right? So, but those who perhaps don't go that deep into it to know what the book is about and are interested would just say homework reading and gloss over it. And that reminds me of Emily Dickinson, because vengeful baby ghost is the core, is the center, is the innards, the guts, what's up, right? And some would gloss over that, just as some would gloss over certain values or certain injustices, or would gloss over the rich internal beauty that would lead to hundreds upon hundreds of poems undiscovered. As one would gloss over all the aspects that somebody with a bigger set of eyes would be able to see. And so I feel like being more creative, part of that is seizing your power, owning your power to declare this inner world right and amazing and valuable. Seizing your power to stand up for your rights, to stand up for what you feel should be a sense of community that reflects your values. You know, the bigger picture that you're able to see. Even though it is difficult, it can almost feel like a plague sometimes. You know, like a burden, a responsibility to have to stand up for something with such ferocity, when it seems like other people don't have to do that, right? But part of being able to see everything, part of having that rich inner world, part of being fucking fierce is being different, being the bigger lens. So, blessing and curse, so to speak. Not really a curse, just sometimes can feel like it. And that's kind of the way we're made sometimes. But that's okay. Because sometimes the shitty thing is that nothing lasts forever. But sometimes the good thing is that nothing lasts forever. This too shall pass. That cloud passes. And when it does, there we go again. Knocking over the skull, you guys. Sorry. Okay. This inner world, when this cloud passes, this inner world lights up. Okay, well, it's this inner world, but it's also this inner world. I mean, it's, you know, all these fireflies wouldn't exist without all the particles of moisture. Sorry for the whistle there, my dental work is terrible. All the particles of moisture in that cloud. That's not proven by science. But I mean, you know, there has to be some sort of relationship between the particles that inhabit a space and the magic that can be born there. I don't know. Anyway, all right, let's move on to the Sonia Choquette cards. 3 came out for this file. We have downtime, back to basics, and call in your joy guides. Downtime, hamster wheel, dark cloud, $2. Sorry, Better Off Dead reference. Relax. Paradoxically, while we have this actually mouse on a hamster wheel, they call it a mouse wheel. Why not? And we're trying to get him to have some downtime. Hey, get off the wheel. Exercising is ironically something that will help you relax. You don't have to exert yourself in some crazy manner. In fact, there was one study where you really don't even have to do it more than like 7 minutes a day. The key is consistency. 7 minutes every single day is far more impactful, according to the study, which I am not, referencing for you to double check because this is just from memory. It's more effective than like an hour every week. So It's the consistency of it, just doing something every day. But anyway, downtime. Yeah. Back to basics. Pretty much the same thing. But hydrate, exercise, nutrition. That looks like a donut. Is that a donut? Oh no, it's fruit. It's fruit. There's the leaf. And all right, well, number 4, foundational lumber. So simplify. There's like a lot of stress, a lot of mental stress, and a lot of teeth gritting right now, I'm feeling. And that's got to ease up. That's got to ease up. Because you're just going to be worn down to the nub. You got to call on your joy guides. You've got to... Oh, listen, you've got to. That sounds terrible. Why is there a disembodied sock, though? What's joyful about it? Oh, there's the sock I lost 5 months ago. I'm so happy. Okay. I may be a little slap happy, you guys. I'm sorry about that. Pardon me. You do have joy guides, though. So, you've got that inner child, which is a great guide to what can be joyful and inspiring. But you can't get in touch with that inner child unless you take the downtime. Unless you get back to basics. Unless you freaking relax. Because, frankly, you're tired of hearing it. Okay? You're tired of hearing it. Yeah, you like community, but community that reflects your values. Community that is in touch with your inner world. Community that can appreciate the broad way you're able to see things in many different aspects. Your unique view. Community where you have access to your own power. Because otherwise, it's just noise and it's just smacky, like, unfortunately, like my crummy dental work, okay? Which I apologize for, but there's nothing I can do about it at the moment. So that's Spirit's message for you right here, is these 5 cards. And basically, it's, you need a break. You need a break from external noise, and you need a break from the internal noise. Some relaxation. That's just sort of like an additional message. And I hope that this was cohesive, because it's a little late now, and this is the first time I've done one of these things, and I really have no idea how I'm doing here, so I hope this has been helpful, pile 2, and man, yeah, it's rough when you get caught in mental loops. I don't know, I feel like I should say something about this, and I don't. It's something I struggle with too. You know, not overthinking things. And not trying to automatically go to the end of the thread, you know? because that is really something that we need to cultivate as creative people, is the ability to leave something alone, at least once in a while, you know, so you can have the happy accident, so you can experience the serendipity, so you can co-create with the light, the inspiration. Whoa. Okay. I don't know if you guys saw that, but I just saw some sort of... I don't know if it's done that through the whole thing, but that was pretty cool. If you saw, there's a little... wah, wah, wah. Okay. All right, pile 2. Sorry if I babbled, and thank you very much for watching, and I hope this was helpful. Pile 3. You chose ruby in blue kyanite. Which, why am I even showing you that? Because the light is so dim, you can't see the... Yeah. Anyway. Ruby and kyanite is very high vibe crystal. It energizes, dispels lethargy, dispels negative energies and vibrations. And not only does it represent abundance and prosperity and fuel those qualities in your life, but it has a connection to the spiritual realm and helps you connect with spirit guides. The chakras that this crystal is associated with are the heart chakra and the throat chakra. And it is associated also with Pisces, Cancer, and Gemini. The numerology is 3, and the elements are earth and spirit. So it's a pretty cool crystal. But then, pile 3, I think you're probably a pretty cool person, because your creative superpower is you, baby. Identity, as represented by Angela Carter, who wrote a lot about different aspects of femininity. And we can see this represented by the bear coming from betwixt the legs there, the nethers. Nether bear. And bears represent strength, and so she's got massive strength coming out of her sacral chakra there. It would be easy to call this menstrual blood, but I think it's more heart wounding, because it doesn't start to drip and actually become blood until we get near her heart and her cleavage, right? Sorry for any weird focus stuff that my finger did there. I think it is heart wounding, because in holistic medicine, the inner thighs, which are facing us in this image, represent a fear of vulnerability. And that bear is just right there to catch any wounding that may happen and make it disappear, or so that bear thinks, right? But it doesn't disappear. It just sort of changes location. And it's meant to. Because the things that happen to you that wound your heart want to be processed through your creativity. Your history is not just the story of how you grew up. It's the story of how your soul was molded in this incarnation. And a cure for the things that have made us bleed, figuratively. You know, doesn't it sound funny to say figuratively about emotional pain? because there's nothing more real, is there? Crazy. The things that make us bleed. You can spin those into gold. You can rubble to look at them. Because you're here watching this reading. You have survived. You're standing tall. Because you are facing every single day. You are going on. And that is fucking amazing. Admirable. And should be lauded. You are a force to be reckoned with. And so, yeah, you are your own creative superpower. So, in knowing this, it's very important to self-care. It's very important to practice what Ralph Waldo Emerson called self-reliance, which is where you have the integrity of your own mind. You define your life. You define your character. And so all of the difficulties that you have been through thus far, you can view in one respect as being painful, or in the other respect as being lessons. And that's all well and good, right? And we agree with that. That's the healthy thing. That's how you grow. That's how you learn. You don't want to hang on to pain. You want to transmute that energy, transform the pain into something that adds. But if it's just sort of a simple, you know, like, well, not simple, ha ha ha, excuse me for saying that, somebody hit me in the head. Okay, if it is going from pain to lesson, and then that's like, that's it. Well, okay, awesome, that's the point, but man, it's not very fun, is it? So that's why I like to use stand-up comedians as my muse, because they go for the most embarrassing shit that has happened to them. They don't hide that. That is what they source for their work. Their moments of insecurity, their moments of self-doubt, the embarrassing things that happen to them when they're out in the world, the messed up dynamics that they might experience with other people. Anything that's embarrassing, the mortifying stuff. That's what you farm. Who wants to hear a story about somebody that had a perfect day and they just sat there and, you know, people watched? Or, I mean, well, people watching's different because you might see some interesting things. But, okay, every day this person has a fabulous day, and that's great. And yay, we're all happy for you. But it's the same fabulous day over and over again. And there's a quote from the novel Endless Love, which is in a completely different category than the movie Endless Love. Even in paradise, it is difficult to forget that you prefer a slightly stiffer breeze, or you've never really cared for the smell of wisteria. I think the point of that, I think why that rolled out of my mouth, is that even if things would have been perfect, if they wouldn't have been. Because we're human. Okay, so I mean, you always have that human factor, and then you always have the fact that we need to be a bit dissatisfied with things so that we have impetus to strive, to move forward. And in your case, you may just have a little more impetus than everybody else. Khalil Gibran says in The Prophet, paraphrasing, that as big as your cup is for sorrow, it is also that big for joy. So if you have experienced immense sorrow, then that means you also have a capacity to experience that same immense amount, only flavored like joy. A cup is a cup is a cup. You got the super big gulp just based on this reading. But you have strength. You have strength with a bear. You have strength coming down from the divine, from your inspiration, from the spiritual. And you have sacred strength symbolized in these vines. And the thing is, yes, there is blood. Yes, there is disembodiment. And her expression doesn't look too happy either. But there are flowers. And those vines are growing upward. And I really, really hope that the audio is coming out okay on this, because I want this message to come through to you, that those vines are going to get taller, and those flowers are going to get bigger, and they're going to yield more flowers, and they're going to continue to blossom and bloom. And I feel like, okay, nasturtiums aren't vine flowers, okay? But I feel like these guys are probably hardy like nasturtiums. And who knows, maybe you could put them in a salad. I don't know. They did that at Greens once. I liked it because it was eating a flower, but I don't know about the taste. But anyway, nasturtiums, you can have them in the shade. You can have them in the sun. They are hardy. They are survivors. And you are a survivor. And who you are is so badass that you're your own creative superpower. So, how can you open up a never-ending flow of ideas? You have bees. Very spiritual card. Bees are representative of Christ consciousness. They're associated with Jesus. Biblically, they represent his sweet and gentle character, but then also the sting of his sense of justice. Now, Angela represents identity and roles and investigating identity, investigating what roles you fit into and who you are. The bees in this deck represent togetherness, work, and treasures. They're also a sign of loyalty and fertility of the soul. And the Druids associated them with the sun, the happiest card in the tarot deck, and the card of Leo. They also represent, to the Druids, goddess energy, celebration, and fertility, I think I said. But they're definitely associated with the soul. So there is an enduring sense of survival, of promise, of strength, signified by bees. And the way that they work as far as leading a symbolic way to never-ending ideas is a sense of purpose, a sense of togetherness, feeling like the people around you are loyal to you, and feeling treasured. These things are the fortification that leads to that wellspring becoming a fountain of ideas for you. To feel treasure, to feel a sense of togetherness, of connection, to feel like you have meaning in the structure, in the system of things, true meaning. And that meaning is treasured, that meaning is appreciated, that meaning is fully seen. Not just half seen, not seen with somebody's shorthand of what, what stereotype or what little box they want to stuff you into. But your full, actual spectrum. You see where I'm going with this. You need to feel important, damn it. You do, because you are. Okay? And since I'm getting all uppity about that, then if anybody has a problem with that, send them my way, and I'll tell them. Because you are. Okay, how do you get more creative passion with your bad self? Well, we have the moon, and we have the toad. All right. Well, so the first thing I want to think of when I see the toad is Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. Which, that may feel like life for you, it certainly has felt like mine, so I relate, if that's the case. The toad represents humor, the grotesque, and joy. What a combo, right? The toad also represents transformation, growth, rebirth, and seeing your way past obstacles because of your instincts, which harkens back to your superpower. Once again, you are a resource for yourself, an enormous resource for yourself and for the rest of humanity through your experiences, through your heart, the things you feel, the things you think, and most of all, the things that you create. The moon, surrender, mystery, looming change. It's also representative of femininity, the rhythm of time, immortality, eternity, enlightenment, and the dark side of nature. And so, again, we're kind of referencing, the moon in tarot is secrets, often, or illusions, the shadow side. And there is that font, again, that you have to draw from. And it's an area that many will not be willing to go into themselves for whatever reasons. Another edit. Some people, it's really big stomach growl there. Some people won't have the same experiences that you do. And so they just won't be able to. It won't be that they can't or that they don't want to. It's just that is not the path that they walked. But that doesn't mean that there won't be things that will be important from those experiences for them to learn from you. Or that doesn't mean that they won't be entertained by just sharing an experience with you through your work, right? It does speak to a bravery, I think, though. The combination of the moon and the toad, because of the toad representing so many different things, with transformation and joy and humor, but then the grotesque as well, sort of these things combined, they make a tapestry. And without the hidden elements, there's going to be things that are lacking from rebirth, from joy, from the grotesque. You know, we need to have those things that not everybody looks at brought out into the open, sort of hopping around, you know, with a bit of playfulness. And that playfulness is your creativity. Because I think that's part of the healing process of making art or creating anything, is you have to be in touch with your inner child. We really have to be able to embrace that sense of playfulness in order to be open to discovering. And that's so much a part of creativity, is that discovery, that openness. You know, you got to be able to make room for things to come in. And it's very much like, it's similar to, well, I mean, it kind of is the same thing, only like a different vehicle of connection with the soul, with the spirit, with source, with universe, with things that are greater than you and things that are you, in harmony. The connection of everything is found in creativity. There are healing qualities that I can't quite describe. But I think that the one that I can describe, or I think the mechanism of it that I can describe, of why it works, is because when you create something that's based on your pain, what that means is, first of all, you have to take that pain out of the realm of secrets and illusion. You have to bring it into the light. And since it's not stuffed down anywhere, the air hits it. Fresh air. New energy. And the observer effect. Because once that air hits it, and there is even just a micron or two of oxygen or new energy in between you and that pain, that then changes how you see that pain. Because you now have a new view. Even if it isn't that distanced, even if the pain is still very familiar, even if you can still connect with that and feel it, you have enough distance that you can sort of also step back and say, okay, now I have my artist hat on. This is not my experience. This is an experience I am looking at to find the nooks, the crannies, the interesting things. David Lynch says that a wound can be an incredibly beautiful and fascinating thing because of the textures and the variation. And we think of a wound as being grotesque. No offense, frog, but that's one of the things that this card represents. But yet, an artist like David can look at a wound and see beauty. Because it is actually there. You just have to kind of forget what everything is, you know? I don't know why my mind wants to all of a sudden give very graphic, vivid examples, probably because of my extensive horror film fan history, but nonetheless, that's not important. What is important is that something that you would think would be completely horrible can be a source of some sort of joy. reconsidered. If you just reconsider it. So if you can, like, be able to give yourself that space by finding a safe place where you can create and not be interrupted, and be able to bring out something that is painful and look at it from the artist's standpoint, using the artist's eye. See if that doesn't transform it for you. And it doesn't have to be visual art. It could be a journal entry. It could be a little theme song that you make up about it, you know, and you sing when you're opening the refrigerator and no other time, just whatever. Just anything that you can use, you know, to sort of change it just a little bit. See if there's anything in something painful that could be pulled out and looked at as being funny. Because, like they say, you know, tragedy plus time is how you make comedy. And I cannot tell you how many stand-up comics have freaking clinical depression. That's how you survive. Is you got to make the terrible stuff okay. You have to transmute it. And you have all the materials within you that you need to do that. So if it's not something that you're doing now, it is absolutely something that you are capable of doing and that you can work up to. And if you are doing it now, then I can't even imagine what kind of cool shit you're coming up with, but keep doing it, because this reading is saying yes, right on. You're on the right path. So, keeping these things in mind, giving yourself the permission to transmute, and remembering that you can do it. You have that power, because you're a freaking badass, okay? That's how you can spark more creative passion. How can you be more creative in everything you do? Jamaica Kincaid history. Let's look at Jamaica. She represents not only history, but being able to grow things that support the earth through her dirty laundry. It's also interesting, she is holding this egg. Eggs are a sign of fertility. Also, though, this egg it looks sort of rusty, almost red. And that reminds me of the egg that Mary Magdalene held. And, which, as she said it would, turned red. To show that Jesus was up in that house. So, it's kind of like, for Jamaica to hold that, it sort of has that same sort of, here's your proof tone to it. You know what I mean? Like, oh yeah? Well, I put my money where my mouth is. Right here in this egg. And by that I mean, look at her. She's part of the earth here. She's coming up. She's rooted. She's strong. Snakes represent rebirth, transformation, immortality. The crow is adaptive and clever, and also represents transformation and psychic abilities, messages. And she is drawing that transformation, that adaptability, that cleverness, that humor from what she is rooted in, which is this earth, from her history. And she is hanging that shit out to dry. And she looks pretty damn happy about it too. So, I mean, I think that this really kind of ties all of it together. Because as she's rooted in the earth here, so she's stable. The bees, the togetherness, the sense of purpose, the loyalty, foundational to be able to take the secrets, find the humor in them, distill into the essence which speaks to who she is. This is your power. You are the material you seek. Let's look at your Sonia Trust Your Vibes cards. We have Aura Cleanse and Vibe Check. Whoa, okay, so now this to me really even comes back again to this idea of having a foundation. Okay, I'm just going to lay these things. Okay, there we go. Okay. Because you want to have clear energy. You don't want to have things that are attached to you. Issues, mindsets, mental traps. All of these things are antithetical to the creative process. And frequency. I love that they have a tuning fork here. Maybe you're musical. Or maybe you want to be musical. You can absolutely channel your essence into music. You'll probably find that through the music of it, pardon me, the composition of the music, rather, as opposed to the lyrics provides one sort of relief, but then the music will provide another, because it is an intrinsic language, and it helps us translate and express those things for which we have no human words. So, music can be very healing, very, very healing. That's a huge thing that saved me, was being able to put the emotions that I could not articulate into words. To be able to make a composition that had no words at all. But man, you felt what it was about. You can feel what that music is saying. Possibly your creativity will come out in dance. This is another avenue where you can express those things that don't have language. There's a beautiful quote. I wish I had it now. I'm going to pause this and I'm going to get this quote for you, since we're speaking of dance, and it actually speaks to this whole reading. So I'm going to grab this real quick, and then we're going to go on to your little handwritten cards here. So let me grab this quote. It's a Martha Graham quote. Be right back. Here we go. There is a vitality, a life force, an energy, a quickening that is translated through you into action. And because there is only one of you in all of time, this expression is unique. And if you block it, it will never exist through any other medium, and it will be lost. The world will not have it. It's not your business to determine how good it is, nor how valuable, nor how it compares with other expressions. It is your business to keep it yours, clearly and directly, to keep the channel open. You do not even have to believe in yourself or your work. You have to keep yourself open and aware to the urges that motivate you. Keep the channel open. No artist is pleased. There is no satisfaction whatever at any time. There is only a queer, divine dissatisfaction, a blessed unrest that keeps us marching and makes us more alive than the others. You, pile 3, are more alive than the others. The analyzer. You do a little bit of overthinking too about that, don't you? You do. You may be holding things in at the time that you're listening to this reading. All the analyzations. And this may be why, bloody hell, sorry. This may be why vibe check and aura cleanse are coming up. Because that's a lot of weight to carry. That's a lot of energy to contain. It's time to start letting that stuff out. Working with it. Don't worry about the form that it takes right now. Remember what Martha said. No artist is ever satisfied. There's a saying that no work of art is ever completed. It's merely abandoned. You'll always be able to look at stuff that you did and say, oh man, I wish I would have done that differently. Wish I could do that vocal take over again. I would have used a different word. I would have put in this sentence. Whatever. Yeah, I would have put a different color rose on that cake I'm frosting. Because remember, you can put yourself into anything you do. It doesn't have to be music or art or painting or videos or, you know, anything like that. It can be something that people would look at and say it's more of a hobby. Well, you know, sod off. Actually, anything is an art. Living is an art. Breathing is an art. You, not you, well, Angela too, but you are art. But you need balance. Gotta do that self-care. And don't spend too much time in one area. Because as an analyzer, you can get stuck and not know it. And then you're like Homer Simpson in La Brea Tar Pits. Oh, my legs are stuck. Oh, I'll just get my legs up with my arms. Now I'll just pull my arms up with my face. It doesn't work like that. You can't do that. So, make sure that you have balance. Because there's a reason to hope. Always have hope. Hope is not in vain. No matter how dark things seem, no matter how unlikely, keep that hope alive. Because you, superpower person, creative superpower you, you're going to end up being somebody else's hope with what you create. I'm getting sappy, so I'm going to stop here. I hope you got something out of this. I hope I didn't have too many edits or whatever. Yeah, I hope you got something out of it. Much love. Thank you.